Hello my friend, and welcome to a Lightroom Mobile photo editing tutorial. I am super excited to dive into this video because I love Lightroom, I love photography, and I love helping you learn new skills and techniques. I got my coffee because no photo editing session is complete without a nice cup of coffee, and my wife told me my hair looks good this morning, so I am feeling good and I am ready to dive into this Lightroom Mobile photo editing tutorial. Let's go. All right, I have opened Lightroom Mobile. I have imported my photo. This is a raw image. If you can, always make sure you shoot raw, because this gives you more dynamic range. It gives you more information in your image so that you can do a lot more while you're editing your image. And I'm actually gonna flip this landscape because I want you to be able to see more of what I'm doing when you're watching this video. So to kick things off, here is my photo. Let's just quickly go through the menu so I can show you what all these different buttons do. At the top right, I have a lot of my selective editing tools. We are going to skip this for the time being, but dive into it more while I edit this image. But right here at top right, I have my auto button. If I click that, Lightroom will auto adjust my image. But you're not here to just click the auto button. You're wanting to learn how to edit your image professionally, how to make it look really nice. So we are going to undo that. We are not going to auto adjust our image. At the sunshine emoji, if we click that, this is all of our exposure controls. You know, you have contrast, highlights, shadows, but I want to point out at the top, you have your curves panel, and this is something we will be diving into for sure. This really helps you to selectively edit the darks and lights of your image. Next, we have our thermometer icon, which is our temperature, tint, vibrant, saturation, all the color of our image. And at the top, we have our color mix. If I click this panel, I can selectively pick which color I want to edit. So for this photo in particular, we're probably going to be doing some of the greens and blues because we have a lot of that in this image. So if I click the blue, you know, I can increase the saturation, I can increase the luminance, the darkness and lightness of the color. So we will definitely be diving into this more when we edit the image. Next, we have the effects panel. If I click that right here, I can see I have texture, clarity, De-Haze. This is going to help with the textures of my landscape image, and we will definitely be using De-Haze to add more contrast and get rid of some of the haze in this image. Next, we have our sharpening panel as well as noise reduction. So if this image was shot in low light and I needed to remove some of the noise, this is where you would do that. And it also allows me to sharpen my image, as it says. Then we have the lens panel where I can remove chromatic aberration, which is where you have high contrast areas between, you know, really rich blacks and bright whites. If those are coming together, sometimes you get these like weird magenta greenish lines that follow that. Using this helps you remove that. And lens corrections, basically Adobe has created a profile for each lens that is out there. So if you click that, it's going to usually remove some distortion. Usually it makes things a little bit brighter. It just makes it look nicer. So we will be clicking that for sure. And then we have the geometry panel where I can control distortion and lots of other different things in my image if I choose to do so. So that is the basics of the menu, and let's go ahead and dive into this edit. If you're enjoying this tutorial so far, please drop me a like. That really helps the channel out and helps get this video out there so other people can learn these different things too. So really appreciate that, guys. Let's get back to the edit. We're gonna start off this edit by clicking the lens. I always remove chromatic aberration and enable my lens corrections to start. Make sure I do that before I dive into the editing process. Then I'm gonna come up here to the light panel and I am going to bump up my exposure quite a bit here. Probably about right there. I'm gonna increase my contrast, drop these highlights down quite a bit, revealing more of the detail in my clouds. Shadows, I'm probably gonna bump up a little bit, bump up my whites a little bit, drop the blacks a considerable amount. I wanna make sure I get really rich colors in this landscape image. And I'm liking that for the time being. Let's go ahead and click curve, and I'm gonna set my points basically in an S curve, and I'm going to drop down my darks a little bit. I'm going to increase the whites just a little bit. Something like that just to get started. And again, as I go through the edits, I'm probably gonna jump back to different things to refine them. That's how photo editing goes. You tweak one thing, then you go back and you wanna edit it again and refine some of your adjustments. So next, let's go ahead and look at temperature. I am liking the white balance of this photo. I'm not gonna adjust that at all. but I am going to boost up the vibrance quite a bit, maybe around 25-ish. I'm gonna leave saturation alone. Well, maybe I'll add just a little bit, but I don't want to do too much, because if you add too much saturation, it looks fake, it looks nasty, and you don't want that kind of look for your photo. It's not going to look professional at all. Then I'm going to jump into the effects panel. I am going to bump up the clarity in this image to about 15 or so. And I like doing that for landscape images because it enhances the details, especially if you have rocks. It looks really good for that kind of work. And then we get to De-Haze, which is increasing contrast in a little bit different way than the contrast slider does. As the name states, it gets rid of some of the haze of your photo. So I'm going to bump that up quite a bit. And you may be thinking right now, this photo looks really dark, but don't worry, we're going to get to that. We are going to polish this and make it look really nice. I'm not adding any vignette to it. I'm not going to add any film grain to it. Not feeling that for this photo. Then I'm going to go into detail. I'm going to bump my sharpening up about midway, probably like 80. I like to go about midway for this. You don't want to sharpen too much because then it, again, looks fake. It doesn't look natural, but it's good to add some sharpening if you are shooting raw, because the camera doesn't sharpen it for you because you are not embedding all that information into your image. So you want to make sure it looks sharp and doesn't look soft. I'm not going to do any noise reduction because I shot this at like ISO 100, so there isn't any noise in this image. And I am pretty pleased with that. We have already done our lens corrections. I don't need to do any distortion to this image. So that is going to be our basic edits. I'm going to jump back up to the light panel. I'm going to bump up my exposure a little bit more, probably dip my highlights down a little bit, maybe drop my shadows down actually a little bit, bump up the whites. I like a nice high contrast landscape image. That's my style. That may not be for you, but I really like how this looks for this kind of image. And then maybe I drop my blacks a little bit more. Let's return to the curves panel. Maybe I can adjust my midtones here, bring those down a little bit, bring my darks like that, whites up just a little bit. Then I'm going to jump back into color. I'm going to go into mix. We're going to target this blue. I'm going to drop the luminance down a little bit so I get darker colors. The green, I will boost the saturation just a little bit. And then the luminance, I am going to bring that up just a little bit like that. It's looking good to me. Let's jump back to the light panel. I'm actually going to increase the shadows a little bit. So you go back and forth. You see one thing and then you want to go back and adjust it. You gotta tweak things as you go along. So let's go ahead and bump that up a little bit actually. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. Guys, if you're learning a lot, please subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more videos coming out teaching a lot of different photo video techniques, teaching Lightroom, Premiere, lots of different stuff. If you want to learn more and grow in your skill sets, please subscribe and I'll get that content out to you. Back to the edit. Now let's jump into more of the selective edits using some of our filters to really enhance this photo. If I come up top and I click this button in the top right, you'll see this plus icon pop up in the top left of your screen. If I click that, I have these different options. I have my brush option, my radial filter, and my graduated filter. I'm going to use the radial filter and the graduated filter for this photo. Let's start with the graduated. Basically, I'm going to push, hold, and drag down. And I'm going to come to about the horizon line right there. And you're seeing this red color pop up. And this is basically telling me which areas of the photo this filter is affecting. So what I'm going to do here is, now that I've selected the sky, I can come into my light panel and target this specific area. So the sky is pretty bright. Maybe I want to drop the highlights down a little bit, and you can see the red goes away when I start tweaking this. Drop that down a little bit. Maybe my exposure comes down a little bit, just like that. And you can really see the details coming back into the clouds here. Now I'm going to bump up my contrast a little bit. Maybe shadows come up just a hair. Drop the blacks a little bit. And then I'm going to come into the color panel. I like the white balance of it, but maybe I get just a little bit more saturation to really enrichen the blues right up there. So I'm liking where that looks. I'm going to click the check mark in the bottom right, and that is going to save that adjustment to my photo. Then I'm going to come back up into selective, hit the plus in the top left, click my radial filter, that's in the center, and I'm going to click and hold right there, and you can see my filter forming. And I'm going to put this right where this little road is. This is what I use to draw attention to a specific area in my photo, but I want to just do a little bit. I don't want to overdo this because then it's going to look fake. It's going to look unnatural, but I am going to adjust this probably like right there. Target this very specific area that I want to draw your attention to. And then I am going to come over here and bump up my exposure just ever so slightly, maybe like 0.2. Add a little bit of contrast there, maybe a little bit of shadow boost. That's looking good right there. If I come back to adjusting this, I can click and adjust the feather and bump that up a little bit so it's not as defined. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the check, and that is looking pretty good. I'm liking where this image looks right now. Overall, I'm gonna go back and adjust. Now I'm gonna do a slight crop to my photo. I wanna make sure my horizon line is nice and level. So I'm gonna click the crop icon on the right or left side. I'm gonna use the right. I click, hold, and I can twist to adjust my image, make sure my horizon is nice and straight. I can then adjust, get more of that rock in there. And whenever you're pleased with your crop, go ahead in the bottom right, push the check mark, and there you go. Now I have a nice level horizon. And I am liking how that looks. That is looking really good. Something I want to cover if you need it is in the top right. You'll see this Band-Aid icon. If I click that, that is my healing brush, so I could target specific areas. I can click different things and heal different areas of my image. So that is how you do that, but we're not going to do any of that for this image. I am liking this image. I am liking how this looks. I think that's pretty good for editing on your phone, for doing a mobile edit. I am really pleased with this image. So I went ahead and made some final adjustments off camera. Here is the before image, the raw image completely unedited, and here is the after. Wow, what a difference this makes when you take the time to really dive into editing your image. I can't encourage you enough to take the time to invest in the work you are shooting. Take the time to edit it to make it look really nice, because it is completely worth it. Makes your images pop, and I think it'll make you even more proud of the work you're creating. Well, that was a lot of fun making that tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment below and let me know, what Lightroom tutorial do you want to see next? What different techniques or concepts do you want me to go over? Comment below, let me know. I got more content coming. Subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when it comes out. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.